Last night, a friend and I made the big trek up to Sydney, about 2 hours in driving time, to go to the Enmore Theatre to see one of my favourite bands, Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark, who were playing in Sydney for the first time in 37 years in what was promised and billed as a greatest hits concert. Now, I had a little bit of trepidation here because I'm one of that probably small band of fans who think that the first four albums, the debut organisation, Architecture and Morality, and Dazzle Ships are all mwah, absolutely wonderful. And then after that, I sort of lost touch with them when they sort of started to play more pop singles, love songs, and they became very, very successful. But something was lost for me. So I knew I was going to be in store for a lot of those songs. But how would the concert hold up? Because I'm not here to review the songs, I'm here to review the concert and how good that was. And optimism was quite high, particularly after the lead singer of the support band, Underground Lovers, who did a sterling, funky 30-minute set. He kept saying that OMD was going to rock the house and we're all going to be dancing. Well, I had a seat up in the dress circle, so there was a bit of dancing, maybe a little bit more chair dancing than anything else. But I was most intrigued to see whether OMD could live up to all the hype. Could they? Let's find out. So the lights go down and we're immediately assaulted by this visual feast that's going on the video screen up the back. And it's the video from Evolution of the Species, an instrumental from their new album, Bauhaus Staircase, which I kind of like. And to me, it's almost like the band's putting on their credibility pants, their alternative credibility pants, with a techno-electronic workout featuring the sounds of robots, machines, that type of thing, all talking about evolution and death. And I'm thinking to myself, for a greatest hits concert, we're off to a promising start. And then that is accentuated and developed when the band comes on for Anthropocene, also from the new album. And it gives us a sense of what the shape of the performance space is going to be. So we've got the video screen up the back. As we're looking at stage left, we have Martin Cooper on a high rise, or on a riser, should I say, with his synthesizers and sax. We've got Stuart Kershaw on his riser, the drum riser, or the drums. And then on the right-hand side, as we look at the stage, we've got Paul Humphreys on vocals and synthesizers, which leaves the space down below for Andy McCluskey to sing, to play bass, to go wild with his gyratic movements, his freaky dance style, and really just rev the crowd up. Now, Anthropocene is a sort of cool, calculated Eurofunk song, which reminds me a lot in the sense of Faithless, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it has such a dire message about the dominance of the human species and what we're doing to the planet. And basically, they get to this countdown, which is saying in 5 million years, in 4 million years, in 100 years in the future, the human population will be. And then the crowd right at the end go berserk, and the voice comes over saying 0. And I'm thinking to myself, where is this night actually going? Then we go straight into Messages off the first album from 1979. And it's somehow, this sounds so absolutely timeless compared to a lot of the newer songs. The synthesizers just float around the audience and swirl, and it makes the idea, the connection here, that we're here to talk about serious stuff, and more than just love, although love is the most important thing in the world, I suppose. And straight after Messages, Andy gets the microphone and says, "So you get the idea? We may be old, but we're freaking relentless for the next 90 minutes. Tesla Girls comes in next, and to me, this was almost like the turning point between the old music, which I really loved, and the new, which I didn't. It's sort of stuck between the two. It's got experimentation and electronics, and there's a new phase of drum beats and dancing, but the crowd really loved as they were chanting along and bopping up and down, going, no, 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 no. Beautiful moment before Forever Live or Die, in which Andy said, I'd like to introduce you to the synthesizer sex symbol. Unfortunately, I have to introduce you to Paul instead, and Paul came down and sung the song. Now, having never seen Pretty in Pink, I never really knew what If You Leave was all about. I mean, I'd heard the song a few times, and there were lots of visuals of Molly Ringwald in pink on the back on the video screen, and the crowd went absolutely berserk for this. They loved it. They were applauding. They were dancing. And I'm sitting around thinking, my God, this band had a much bigger reach than I ever knew. They were far more popular through the 80s. And again, coming back to that idea that I was in a very, very small percentage of people who were there for just the first four songs. Then we go into, or Paul says, We put out an album in 1981 called Architecture Morality, and we're going to sing some songs off it. Now, I've already done a deep dive of this album on my channel. I'll leave the link in the comments. And to me, it's one of the most brilliant albums ever recorded. And they start with Souvenir, which is simply one of the most gorgeous, sumptuous pop songs of all time. And it sounds brilliant, of course, with Paul's innocence, maybe his naivety on vocals. I thought that maybe the main line of it, da, 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 that bit was almost turned into a saxophone, which was kind of interesting, but still the middle section where it goes down to that ghostly section is beautiful. Then it was followed by Joan of Arc, which is such a pretty tune full of yearning, emotion, and builds to almost a bombastic end. It's the haunting synth line, which once again sounds like the choir of ghosts, which just lifts it above being just a pure sugary track. And then Joan of Arc, Maid of Orleans, comes in, and the waltz, which is really beautiful. And I've always thought it a bit strange about this song because Orleans being in France, but to me, with the drums and the synthesizers sort of imitating bagpipes, it has a Scottish feel to it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Striking build-up of tension with the drums pounding a bum, ba, ba, da, dum, ba, da, dum. Absolutely wonderful. And then we go into darkness. I'm cutting out a few songs here and there here, with a song, an instrumental called The Rock Drill, which is also from the new album. It's a nice little slice of EDM with robotic voiceovers. And the stage goes dark, and we're just seeing the video at the back. And then when the stage comes back up, we have downlights, 4 of them across the front of the stage, and there is the band lined up. Synthesizers on either side, on mini synthesizers, sort of almost a la Kraftwerk. So synthesizers, then drums, and then Andy in the singing as well. And they go into this big power ballad called Verushka, which is very, very sincere and moving, and a great moment, I think, as well. I was quite shocked by how much I loved Talking Loud and Clear in this concert, particularly seeing it's from Junk Culture. It's a very pretty, understated song, and the visuals at the back were all these flowers that were sort of cascading down, roses, gerberas. And it's ironic that it's from 1984 and it's called Talking Loud and Clear, because Andy gives a sort of a whispered, almost sotto voce vocal to it, which is beautiful over the top of the wonderful collage of synthesizers. And it's interesting that Andy says, after Talking Loud and Clear, that he says, for those of you nearly as old as us, here's the bad news. That's the end of the slow songs. And we go into Don't Go with a BPM of 120, and it has a lot of attitude, and it rocks out with some intensity, particularly given those the swirling washes of the synth pads. And then Andy comes up to the mics and says, the hits keep coming, and he goes, oh, there's more, constantly throughout. And he keeps questioning whether the audience is getting tired yet or they still got some energy. He's pumping us up all the way through. And then we go into So In Love, and it starts with the dissonance of the synth pads, which is underpinned by a honky-tonk sort of piano section. A vocal which really reminds me of Simple Minds, which is okay. And it even has that ubiquitous 1980 saxophone solo thrown in for good measure. So we're getting towards the end of the concert now, and Sailing the Seven Seas comes on. Andy needs help on the vocals, which is his way of getting us all to sing along. And to me, this song has always sort of been a cross between Alvin Stardust's Cuckoo Cachoo and My Generation, with the lyrics, people try to drag us down, so we learn to swim before we drown. But then the drums and the keyboards of Enola Gay come up, and the crowd just goes berserk. They start up, and we were going absolutely mental. It's the final song of the set list proper, and everybody's dancing. The crowd's just going absolutely berserk, and Andy's whipping us up into a big frenzy. I mean, the song speaks for itself, and on the visuals at the back, we see pictures of bombers, and the words Enola Gay occasionally flash up onto the screen. Wonderful, stirring song to finish the proper set with. And they leave the drums going as they're leaving the stage, obviously letting us know that they're coming back for more. And they do with their encore, which is a couple of songs which were okay, but the highlight of the night was the closer, Electricity, written in 1979, rocking harder than ever. A really cool way to finish the night. Good choices to finish the set proper with Enola Gay and then Electricity to finish off the night itself. Now, what did I think of the night as a whole? Well, the first thing that has to be said is that I never in my wildest imagination did I think Andy McCluskey would be such a dynamic performer at 65 years of age. The guy never stopped. He was swaying his hands from side to side, bouncing up and down, going into those incredible gyrations that is completely unique to him as a dance style. And he was witty, he was funny, and he was enthusiastic, and he was positive all the way through. And the connection between him and Paul was so obvious. I mean, these are brothers who have been playing music, brothers who have been playing music for years and years and years. And you can tell there was so much love there. I also was completely unprepared for the reaction that the crowd gave to all the songs, which don't really do it for me. People were singing along, mouthing words, dancing, and getting so much joy out of seeing these songs in performance. It was very easy for me to be swept away with it. And I sort of took the perspective that if I didn't like a song that much, then it was only 3 minutes until the next one. But I have never heard a band receive so much applause and cheering between songs. And at the end of this video, I'm going to show you a clip, hopefully, of when the band finally hung up its instruments, and you can hear the thunderous applause that they got. To me, seeing this band, sort of the music that I would like to listen to, you almost have to pay a sugar tax, and that's a pun intended there. That you have to sort of go through listening to all those massive sugary pop hits in order to get to what is, for me, the meat of the performance. And they played 3 songs of Architecture and Morality, 2 off the first album, 1 off Organisation, and nothing off Dazzle Ships. And I would have loved, in a perfect world, and it was a great night, don't get me wrong, but in a perfect world, I would have loved if they had just brought everything down for a moment so we could have heard an epic like Sealand or Stanlow. That would have just about topped it for me. And I would have loved something from Dazzle Ships, like Of All the Things We Made, or Romance of the Telescope. And at the end of the concert, Andy apologizes, in a sense, for not coming back for 37 years. And he says, "We'll be back. Don't worry, we'll be back." And one gets the feeling that nearly everybody, if not everybody, in the Enmore Theatre that night will be coming back as well. So I sort of went in kind of with low expectations because it was a greatest hit show, but desperately wanted to hear those songs from Architecture and Morality in the first 4 albums. And I was amazed at how much pleasure it gave me. The time just went by so quickly, and all of a sudden they were gone. And reminding you that if music of any size, shape, sound, or substance gives you pleasure, then who am I to argue with your opinion? If you got joy out of that show last night and you love those pop songs, then more power to you, because feeling good is a great way to be. Anyway, until next time, my name's Brian, and I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. And until the next time, I hope you're doing well, being cool, and bye now. But let's have a look at the way they left the stage in that thunderous applause. Cheers.
So much. Thank you. Go home safely and we will see you soon.